in this Zoom session, I would like to remind the media to rename your Zoom name to enable us to identify for the press conference session after this opening ceremony. So thank you for your kind cooperation and attention. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berhormat Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yang berbahagia Datuk Ahmad Azam bin Abdul Rahman, Commissioner of the Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission, PHRC of OIC, and the Chairman of Global Peace Mission, GPM. Yang berbahagia Mr. Muhammad Faisal Abdul Aziz, President of Nation Youth Muslim Movement, ABIM, His Excellency, Her Excellency, our honorable guests and speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and selamat pagi, good morning to all our distinguished guests to our KL Conference on Afghanistan, Re-Emergence of a Nation. Before we proceed with today's events, let's begin our session with Kitab Al-Fatiha.
إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's conference is held with the objectives of highlighting several points in line to the current situation in Afghanistan to be understood by the world. The establishment of a Global Peace Mission Nation in September 2001 will bring us back to the narrative of reasoning that led this foundation to be established, which was a response towards the war by the US military in Afghanistan 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the humanitarian aid mission led by GPM as an NGO representative from Malaysia happened to rebuild Afghanistan through a fund from the nations. Back then, GPM opened a secretariat that served for almost 2 years in Afghanistan. Consequently, the Surya School, Orphanage Home, Women's Center, Bread Factory, and many more has been established by GPM. Concerning the current situation in Afghanistan and looking back at the connection built between us two, it is the responsibility once again befall onto GPM to show concern towards Afghanistan. This KL Conference on Afghanistan with the theme The Emergence of the New Afghanistan will be organized by GPM in conjunction with its 2 decades of establishment celebration. The program has high expectation with hope to provide several answers and good narratives to solve confusion, thought, and questions to the future Afghanistan. Yang berhormat and our distinguished guests, to kick off today's event, it gives me a great pleasure to invite the chairman of today's organizer, Global Peace Mission, who is also the commissioner to the Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of OIC, to deliver his speech. Please welcome Yang Berbahagia Datuk Haji Ahmad Azam bin Abdul Rahman.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia, Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, distinguished panelists and organizers, respected online participants from all over the world, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A warm welcome to KL Conference on Afghanistan, Re-Emergence of a Nation. This conference is the highlight of the 20-year establishment of Global Peace Mission exactly on September 26, 2001, 20 years ago. The narrative on the slightly more than 1 month new government of Afghanistan, known as the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, is one-sided, biased, and monopolized by the Western media. The narrative is stereotyped and negatively presented, which include claims that the new Afghan government is against the rights of women and minorities, anti-democratic, intolerant, and oppressive. However, during the first press conference held on August 17, 2021, by the Taliban spokesperson, Zabihullah Mujahid, had declared that the new government wishes a peaceful relation with other countries, will respect rights for women, will provide general amnesty to all its opponents, and will form an inclusive government. Let us hope and pray that these declarations will be manifested into a reality by the new government, and let us give them a chance to prove itself. Respected participants, allow me to express the sentiments of many NGOs from various parts of the world with regards to Afghanistan post-foreign occupation. The wait-and-see attitude by most nations in recognizing the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan is understandable, considering the negative narratives being casted on the new government. However, we need to understand that this new government had emerged from a 20-year foreign occupation, enduring routine carpet bombing, precision bombing by drones, killing families, women, and children at wedding ceremonies, funerals, and Khatam al-Quran celebration. The people of Afghanistan suffered untold miseries not reported truthfully by the mainstream global media. The people of Afghanistan need all the support and assistance from all over the world, especially from the Muslim countries, to rebuild their nation that has been destroyed due to the foreign occupation. It is time for nation building. As the chairman of Global Peace Mission, a Malaysian-based humanitarian NGO, I wish to inform the participants that with the facilitation of the Honorable Minister Datuk Saifuddin, GPM humanitarian team is now in Kabul since last Friday to conduct a fact-finding mission to look into the humanitarian needs of the Afghans. Building a new Afghanistan is the main objective of this conference. I wish to express my profound thanks and gratitude to the Honorable Minister, ambassadors, distinguished panelists, including the NGO and government leaders from Afghanistan, in making this conference a successful one. Inshallah, this is the beginning and we must seize the moment. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Bahagia Datuk Ahmad Azam, for the wonderful speech. Ladies and gentlemen, Afghanistan has become the center of the world as news on the current situation that occurred has captured the attention of the media worldwide. The recent event that occurred in Afghanistan had blown the whistle not only to the Muslim countries but also to the rest of the world. So to get some of his insight into this topic with his keynote address, Peaceful Coexistence, the Way Forward for Afghanistan, let us warmly welcome and invite our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yang Berhormat Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, to deliver his speech. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Chairman, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Ahmad Azam Abdul Rahman, Commissioner to the Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of the OIC, Saudara Faisal Abdul Aziz, President of ABIM, the Muslim Youth Movement of Malaysia, former Foreign Minister, my elder brother Tan Sri Abdul Hamid Alba, thank you, sir, for coming together, and I look forward to listening to you in your session. Brothers and sisters, excellencies, first and foremost, let me congratulate GPM on the 20th anniversary of your establishment. And on behalf of the government, I would like to record our thanks for all of your good work in Afghanistan. The government don't have an official representative in Afghanistan. Our ambassador or High Commissioner to India is also our representative to Kabul, but you are one step ahead by having almost at NGO level official connection with our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. So let me congratulate you again. And I would like to thank Datuk Ahmad Azam and Saudara Faizal and Fahmi and the gang for inviting me to this very, very important meeting, the KL Conference on Afghanistan, and looking at the future of our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. We need to have our own understanding on what is happening in Afghanistan today, what has happened in the past, who were the culprits behind what have happened in the past, and how do we move forward. I agree with Datuk Azam. We should not fall into the trap of the Western narrative when they describe the events in Afghanistan. We all understand and we are very sympathetic, and we are always in solidarity with the Afghanistan's people. They have endured internal turmoil for probably 40 years. And for that 40 years, it involved two superpowers. And this is part of the superpowers trying to impose their hegemony on smaller states for reasons known only to them. And to most of us, we just cannot comprehend. They don't have any business to be there in the first place. And the result of this 20 years or 40 years of internal turmoil, of misery, of difficulties, resulted in the country suffering with a structural trade deficit of 30% of the GDP. The immediate past government of Afghanistan was dependent on outside aid for 80% of its funds. Out of the 36 million population, 4 million are displaced persons. Out of the 4 million, 3 million are living in internal displacement, while about 1 million are displaced due to natural disasters. Besides that, there are 2.5 million Afghanistans who have fled the country for reasons of security and survival. Half of the population live below the poverty line. More than half of the population are in dire need of humanitarian assistance. The GDP of Afghanistan, the GDP per capita of Afghanistan is one of the lowest in the world. I think they rank about 213 out of the 228 countries surveyed. During this period of conflict and difficulties, Malaysia has provided some kind of humanitarian assistance, partly under the supervision of our dear brother, Tan Sri Hamid Alba. For example, we have sent the Malaysian medical team, MASMET, at the Rogani refugee camps and Kili Faiso camp in 2001 and 2002. 40 members of the Malaysian Armed Forces were deployed at the Bamyan province to provide medical and health services to the general public in 2010 to 2013. The Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, MTCP, has trained 617 government officers since 2002 in different capacity building programs. And we have also worked with the Australian government through the Malaysia-Australia Education Project for Afghanistan, MIPA, training 1,200 teachers, including school headmasters and principals, while 2 of our CSOs has been actively involved in all kinds of activities, and they are namely Mercy Malaysia and Global Peace Mission. What is happening today is something that the Western intelligence did not manage to report it correctly before it happens. In short, the Western intelligence has got it wrong, just like they has got it wrong in Vietnam and in Iraq. And that is my premise of stating at the outset that we should not listen to the Western narrative. They have failed us over and over again. Huge, well-armed military, air power are not answers to the struggle of the people in any part of the world. And this has been historically proven over and over again. And we should salute the Afghan people that they have taken it upon themselves to decide the future of their country. And we pray that they will be successful. I believe that it is the Afghanistan people who know best what needs to be done. They know better their history, their problems and challenges, the new realities that they are faced with, and the way forward. If I can paraphrase, I think Dr. Zulkarnain Hassan in one of our meetings a few days ago, we should respect local and indigenous knowledge and wisdom of the Afghan people. Superpowers have no business to be there in the past or in the near future. That is why the Malaysian government has repeatedly stated peace and reconciliation and the reconstruction and rebuilding of Afghanistan must be Afghan-led, Afghan-owned, and Afghan-controlled. While we, Malaysians and the Ummah and peace-loving citizens of the world must show our support and solidarity and try our level best to give whatever assistance that is possible to our brothers and sisters, the Afghanistan people. With tribute to the almarhum Dr. Siddiq Fadil, former president of ABIM, I would like to share my take on his view on peaceful coexistence. I have written a small book in 2017 entitled New Politics 2.0, and in his probably one of his last writing on peaceful coexistence, Dr. Siddiq Fadil articulated the meaning of the verse of the Quran, few verses of the Quran, but in particular, Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 13, on the meaning and the application of lita'arafu, knowing the other, celebrating differences, and how we can, he expressed it in Malay, hidup bersama dalam budaya damai, peaceful coexistence in short. The Quran provides sufficient guidance on peaceful coexistence. For example, Islam is a mercy to all, Muslim and non-Muslims alike. This is the famous verse, Rahmatan lil Alamin, Al-Anbiya 107. Islam acknowledges and celebrates the reality and diversity. Because if Allah so willed, in An-Nahl verse 93, Allah said He could have made you all one people. So there are no many tribes in Afghanistan, only one tribe. Yeah. But Allah has created, and this is where Al-Hujurat 13 comes into place. But Allah has created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Accordingly, Islam upholds the principle of religious freedom. In Al-Baqarah, verse 253, it is stated, let there be no compulsion in religion. Following that, Islam forbids Muslims from causing discomfort to peoples of other faith. Revile not ye those whom they call upon besides Allah, Al-An'am, verse 108. In fact, it is part of the mercy of Allah that you deal gently with them, Al-Imran, verse 159. And when you call people to your cause, to the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam promotes the use of wisdom and dialogue. An-Nahl, verse 1 to 5. And even if there is dispute, let not the hatred of others to you make you swerve to wrong and depart from justice. Be just, that is next to piety. Al-Ma'idah, verse 8. We will be publishing Dr. Siddiq's book, co-published by ISIS Malaysia, the good ISIS, yeah, ISIS Malaysia and Institute Darul Ihsan very soon. And peaceful coexistence is one of our priority within the framework of the foreign policy, and we park peaceful coexistence in the realm of multilateralism. The other important take from Al-Hujurat verse 13 is the elimination of politics of race. There is a difference between someone who is a racialist and someone who is a racist. A racialist is someone who is conscious about race and is accepting of it as an unproblematic category. This does not make him a racist, but is a prior condition for racism. A racist in turn, is someone who feels or shows disdain for others based upon their racial affiliation. Politics of race is about how the state make race and how state-sanctioned racial discrimination occurs. In essence, it is about how governments use laws, policies, and state institutions involving race in order to win elections and to stay in power. In some countries, because politics of race is so embedded and ingrained in some countries, most people do not see it happening. If they say it, they may not think that it is wrong. Some are willing to accept it because they think this is the only way to do it. But some may actually like it because it ultimately serves their purposes and interests. But peaceful coexistence and politics of race has also bearing on international relations. Internally, we say that we want and we hope that there will be inclusivity in Afghanistan, and people talk about politics, people talk about education. I have stated earlier in Parliament, one of the parameters that we are looking at before we can recognize Kabul administration is number one, on the inclusivity of the different tribes in the administration. Number 2 is on empowerment of women, and including in the areas of education, employment, and so on and so forth. And of course, the other parameter we are looking at is on human rights, the upholding of the principles of human rights, and so on. But I have also advised the Parliament that Malaysians should be reasonable in looking at those parameters. We should not repeat the mistakes of some others who try to impose certain meanings to Afghanistan people. We should have some threshold, some bottom line, but we should not be over-imposing or to be very condescending. As I said earlier, the Afghan people knows their issues and their problems and their future better than any one of us. But in the context of multilateralism, peaceful coexistence is about how, and we should in many ways or in any way possible assist the new Afghan and how they live peacefully with neighboring countries. We should try to help, though we are a small country, to not allow another superpower intrusion, for example. And superpowers, they are normally interested in a particular country like Afghanistan, not only because of geopolitics, and if I can paraphrase Farish Noor's point, it is also about the rich minerals, etc., in Afghanistan. Another favorite parameter mooted by many people is to ensure that Afghanistan is not turned into a safe haven for terrorism. We understand perfectly where this is coming from. Malaysia condemns and rejects terrorism in all of its forms and manifestation. But at the same time, we sometimes want to question the meaning, the definition of terrorism, who defines them, and from which perspective are you looking at terrorists or terrorism. Sometimes there are outside forces who cultivate them because they want to sell weapons and because they are warmongers. Sometimes radical Islam, as much as we do not agree with it, are also cultivated by certain powers for their own interests. And Muslims all over the world are left to handle it on our own. And they laugh at us, the people who cultivate terrorism and radical Islam. So we must also be wary of the fact that there are a lot of issues that our Afghan brothers and sisters will be faced with, both internally and from outside. And we should be supporting our Afghan brothers and sisters because there is now an opportunity for them to rebuild and to reconstruct their country based on the new model. Probably it is more democratic, inclusive, while observing principles of integrity, good governance, and so on and so forth. And we pray that our Afghan brothers and sisters will not repeat some of the mistakes of other brothers and sisters, including some of us, in some of our countries, in some ways allowing authoritarianism, which then resulted in underdevelopment. Structural barriers that impede progress should be avoided. Mr. Chairman, Malaysia will continue to be committed to render our assistance, especially for now, humanitarian assistance. The government has pledged to the United Nations $100,000. We have also pledged to further our MTCP program for Afghanistan's government officials and related personalities, especially in 3 areas: women empowerment, education, and capacity building. Our International Islamic University in Malaysia has hosted a few hundred students in the past, and we are ever willing to receive students to IIUM and other universities too. Malaysia will also work with other countries, and I have spoken to several foreign ministers, especially those who were directly or indirectly involved in the earlier discussions on the new Afghanistan. We will continue to work on international platforms such as the OIC and the UN. We will be facilitating our local NGOs to work in Afghanistan. For example, Mercy Malaysia has indicated that they are willing to go back, and I must congratulate GPM. I was told, I saw the pictures, that they are already now in Kabul since yesterday or the day before. We will also be encouraging our businesses, private sectors, to look out for opportunities in the reconstruction and rebuilding of Afghanistan. There may be 1 or 2 Malaysian companies who are already not necessarily in Kabul, but through like-minded countries, they have been invited to do some of the early works of repairs and maintenance. And we would also we also welcome views from experts as to how Malaysia, in any way possible, will be able to assist the Afghanistan people. Let me underline the fact that as Foreign Minister, I'm speaking about, for now, humanitarian assistance and the process of rebuilding and reconstruction with the Afghanistan people. And to ensure that we do this proper, I would like to announce the appointment of Datuk Ahmad Azam as my special advisor on Afghanistan. And we hope we can work very closely in this regard. I look forward to a very fruitful discussion, and I also look forward to receiving your resolutions after the conference. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Perjalanan Global Peace Mission Malaysia GPM dalam misi kemanusiaan merentasi sempadan memasuki tahun ke-19 perubahannya pada tahun 2020. GPM yang ditubuhkan pada 26 September 2001 ekoran perisytiharan perang oleh Amerika Syarikat serta tercetusnya peperangan di Afghanistan telah memulakan misi bantuan kemanusiaan dan perubatan di sana pada awal Oktober tahun yang sama. Semenjak itu, GPM terus mengerak langkah dalam memperjuangkan keamanan sejagat melalui bantuan kemanusiaan dan usaha advokasi berterusan dan konsisten. Perkongsian ini berjalan seiring dengan misi mengekalkan kecemerlangan, meningkatkan kecekapan serta menambah baik keberkesanan organisasi dalam gerak kerja bantuan kemanusiaan di peringkat lokal dan global. Tahun 2020 menjadi satu tahun yang amat penting bagi GPM. Justru GPM telah menggariskan 6 teras utama dalam memastikan ia terus kekal relevan dan efektif dalam menjadi organisasi utama di Malaysia dalam menyalurkan bantuan kemanusiaan.
Thank you very much, Yang Berhormat Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, for that insightful keynote and for that gimmick video. Once again, we would like to invite Datuk Saifuddin to launch the crowdfund by the www.peduliafghanistan.com for the Datuk Saifuddin to launch that crowdfund. Please welcome. We would like to invite Yang Berhormat Datuk Saifuddin to launch the crowdfund for the Peduli Afghanistan. Please, Datuk.
Yeah, Excellencies, brothers and sisters, I hereby launch the Peduli Afghanistan crowdfunding initiative organized by the Global Peace Mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk, for the launching session of the crowdfund by Peduli Afghanistan. For the information of the participants and our audience today, you may visit our official website for the crowdfund in www.peduliafghanistan.com for more information for the mission. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, today we have our session with a GPM team who's currently in Kabul, Afghanistan, led by Mr. Muhammad Azlan Sharif, our former CEO of GPM. Hence, we have some time for Yang Muhammad Datuk Saifuddin to have a few dialogue session with the team. Please welcome the Kabul team and Datuk Saifuddin to have a dialogue. Welcome, Mr. Azlan, for the dialogue.